Hey everybody, this is American Carnage, Alexander A. Manzoni coming at you. Chapter 14, Taking Advantage of Terrorism, Serial Killer Style. Mike Pence Memorial Bus Terminal, downtown Camden, New Jersey, RSA. Friday, January 18, 2092, 10:42 a.m. Eastern Standard Time. For Marty, the chaos that ensued following the blast was undeniable perfection. What luck, thought he.
Oh, I never thought that terror could come at a good time, but I was wrong, apparently.
Marty was the only one on the streets that day that appeared to be enjoying himself with this insane, half-cocked grin. Wrapped around his pale, sallow mug, he would have been a great terrorist himself, except that he wasn't the type to commit to any particular ideology. Certainly not one that would restrict his personal activities in any extremely specific ways. From what he'd been told, the piece de resistance were vegans, which was Republican propaganda. Not all of them practiced dietary restrictions, whilst the United Islamic Caliphate, well, they had their Sharia thing going. Of course, according to Press du Jour Eagleman, the UIC was defeated and had been defeated for 6 years now. Coincidentally, as soon as he entered office. How convenient! According to Eagleman, all of these terrorist attacks were by gangs, ignorance, and the liberal left. People weren't fooled, though. Well, not every single time, anyway. The UIC was just as fierce and as pissed off at the West as they'd ever been. A combined alliance of the Islamic State, Al-Qaeda, the Pakistani Taliban, Boko Haram, Al-Shabaab, the Eastern European, Eurasian, Muslim Brotherhood, and of course, Hamas. They were not a particularly friendly bunch, nor were they ever expected to be. Less friendly still that the credit for their American operations was being given to others, the ignorants, the gangs, the blacks. Always the fucking blacks. Always the blacks with these Republican motherfuckers. Jesus. To deny them, to deny the UIC, was perhaps a worse crime than eating an entire pig while dancing butt naked in a Meccan mosque during Ramadan. Sorry for saying that, but I had to. The Western world had spent the better part of the last 100 years attempting to stamp them out. The more repressed the nations of the world became, the more did the UIC exponentially proliferate. It was somewhat of a new thing for a major power to initiate a policy of outright denial of their existence. Needless to say, it wasn't working. It only emboldened them to cause such widespread destruction and American carnage that they'd have to be acknowledged in full once again. Instead, that credit was being given by and large to white people, gangbangers, and secular ignorance, sprinkled with a few secret foreign nationals like the ethnically diverse superheroes for good measure. After the primary explosion, a billowy white cloud rapidly expanded from the point of detonation, which was in the vending machine area between the covered departure point and the main lobby. Bewildered and terrified citizens poured into the streets. Whereas before, Marty was searching for a victim. Now, the victims, well, they were coming to him. The panic that so ensued was so complete and chaotic that the people in the streets were literally jumping into traffic, trying to leap onto any passing vehicle to escape the epicenter of the bedlam. They did the same with the buses and the light rail. Many were unsuccessful in their endeavors. For the most part, they were utterly pulverized under wheels and myriad moving mechanical parts. Still, after a brief period of consideration, Marty chose to stick to his original target. We're going to go to the next part. The attack on the Mike Pence bus terminal was in fact not orchestrated by the 85666ers. It was clearly evident to those who were present that at one point, a considerable number of the actual 85666ers were attacking their own convoy, which made me suspect to those with fucking functioning brains in their heads. Yet another installment of a long series of orchestrated Republican operations, plain and simple. Republican operations, I mean. Too bad that the general public was henceforth misinformed about the events as they truthfully played out, thanks to our old friend, propaganda! The Philadelphia propaganda expert Yuda Lacrimosa had pulled a series of all-nighters to further that request some time ago. It was she and her company that was tasked to cook up the new flyers, the new posters, and other assorted items that were unexpectedly damaged during the Mike Pence Memorial Bus Terminal attack and bombing. Now, wait a second. Don't get a handle on repairing that infrastructure too quickly, guys. Get right to putting up new replacement 5-story tall building adverts of J. Royden Eagleman gazing contemptuously over the inhabitants of the city with the tagline, "If you're not part of the solution, then shucks, you are part of the problem. Failure to report suspicious activity to your local Homeland Security Bureau may result in federal extrajudicial summons to any and all involved, gangland, immigrant, Muslim, or otherwise." In what remained of New York, Philly, D.C., and Boston, there were Eagleman adverts hooked up to loudspeaker PAs, and they frequently released announcements and other assorted special messages from the president du jour. The 2-score brigade of federal propagandists advanced behind the National Guard. They were, in essence, nothing but a bunch of glorified armed billboard hangers with badges. Every time they made a gain, block by block, the propagandists would set up their scaffolds and hurriedly set to putting up as much material as they could fit on the burnout, bullet-riddled husks of buildings and row homes before continuing on to the next cleared quadrant. The individual workers themselves had no idea that the government was playing both sides. The government utilized what were then known as chameleons, which were special undercover agents with 3D printed skin and bone structures, modified tracheal voice boxes that concealed their accents and enhanced their speaking abilities, an extensive computer database of gang lingo and mannerisms. That's not to say that the criminals didn't also have access to this technology. The government's official position was that they didn't, but they definitely did and had for quite some time. It was the same technology that allowed Marty to construct his facial replica, which potentially allowed for his alibi. It is important to note that the chameleons were distinct from undercover remote proxies like the one Francois and Cavane encountered, which were essentially remote-controlled bipedal drones usually used for operations requiring decidedly less finesse than, say, infiltrating a major narco-terrorist organization or what have you. And when they would run low on drones, they'd jack into the unsuspecting brains of the unwanted, throwing them away when they were done with them, often simply left for dead in the street. That's right, in the street, directly in the middle of the street. They would thence be added to crime statistics as victims of ignorant and or gang violence. It is an effective way to boost those stats, to justify just budgetary expenditures, to further militarize police departments at every level with measures that were often ridiculous and sometimes were dangerously counterproductive, which, come to think of it, was actually also an excellent summation of J. Royden Eagleman's entire presidency and accompanying administration. Okay. In the billowing cloud of dust and smoke, in the parking lot of Taco Tuesday, did Marty roll down his window, exposing himself to a bit of radiation in the process, and call the very woman he was previously stalking. She, like many, was stumbling about in a state of dull confusion, magnified, of course, with a sizable quantity of crocodile cut with elephant tranquilizers, fentanyl, and green bath salt crack coursing through her veins. "Oh my God!" she kept screaming over and over, pulling vehemently at her stringy, kinky hair dyed pink and peroxide blonde. A stout man, white, left side of his head burnt and drenched, pouring crimson, wearing a blue transit worker uniform, came staggering out of the terminal parking garage, clutching a 6-inch long piece of jagged metal embedded in his skull, right above the ear. Last call! 404 to Paulsboro! Spoke the transit worker in utter shock, simply subconsciously going through the motions, while his brain and scalp bled profusely. Miss! Called Marty through cupped hands. Come on! Get in! Let's get the hell out of here! Her judgment, clouded by drugs and panic, failed to serve her well. She half ran towards Marty's idling truck. By the time she reached the vehicle, some other folks had some ideas as well. Other individuals, such as the purple top hat fellow, quickly congregated, surrounding Marty's ride with a bristling aura of malevolence and fear. Marty popped the passenger door and grabbed the woman's wrist as she clumsily climbed into the depths of the interior. Immediately did the tires peel as Marty mashed the accelerator with a heavy heel. Riding along in my automobile, hummed Marty, subconsciously summoning the spirit of Chuck Berry, as he then found himself staring down the barrel of a Frankenstein automatic pistol with 2 cylindrical drum clips extending from both sides of the clip. Pop, pop! Nah, he didn't fire anything. Somewhat resembling a hefty pair of chrome huevos, the drum clips strung together with electrical tape. You get out your car, motherfucker! Resounded Top Hat, wildly gesturing sideways with the firearm. You break yourself, fool! Usually a man as white as Marty would dutifully acquiesce to any request given by a man, black, pointing a loaded weapon in such a way. Of course, Marty wasn't the usual sort of white man. He was an altogether different breed entirely. Psychopathic sociopath. Ooh, Marty did not stop. Instead, he went faster, gunning straight for Mr. Top Hat. He backed up and then went forward, gunning straight for Mr. Top Hat. Ba-da-ba-ba-ba-ba! The bulletproof windshield, a stark reflection of the times, absorbed the rounds dutifully. Each slug left a distinctive scratch on the windshield, though little else. Top Hat seemed surprised that a piece of shit truck would have had such advanced hardware. Top Hat seemed even more surprised that he was struck by the front end and was subsequently catapulted over the roof and onto the cap. The gun went flying into the road, whereupon it was promptly fought over intensely by street urchins who had given up the chase. Others, though, were not so easily deterred. Man, I said stop! Slow your roll, motherfucker! Spat Top Hat as he reaffirmed himself, clutching onto the sides of the bed with both hands. Driving past the old abandoned Central Police Station, Marty temporarily lost control of the wheel. He fishtailed, and as a consequence, took out a bullet-riddled stop sign at the corner of North 10th Street and Federal. Top Hat was flung out of the bed, finally losing his hat, which was quickly carried off by the radioactive wind. There wasn't a moment to lose. To accomplish his ultimate goal, Marty had to exit the city promptly before the military established any additional emergency checkpoints. Each time Marty passed through one of these points, the chance of him being caught providing false and misleading information to the police increased exponentially. The difficulty increased doubly with the presence of an additional passenger. It did not seem likely that she had all of her papers in order either. It seemed so not likely that Marty didn't even bother to ask. Eventually, the woman began to inquire as to the specifics of their journey, absently asking, where are we going? In between opiate nods. Home, said Marty, doing his best to hide a deviant grin that extended across his aquiline visage, vaguely reminiscent of a looming predatory vulture. Yep, that's where we're headed. You look like you'd probably use a shower right now, huh? Wait, what? Sharply exclaimed the woman. She appeared confusedly quizzical. A jolt of unexpected horror thereupon dawned upon her. It caused her to constrict and contort the skeletal pallor of her drug-deteriorated visage. As she came to the sudden realization that she was, in all likelihood, completely fucked. She haphazardly tried the door, only to find that the child protection lock was engaged. It would not open from the passenger side unless she kicked the window open or pried the door off the hinges with Herculean effort. "What's the matter with you?" Marty spoke plainly. "You're acting, well, kind of crazy. You're acting like I don't know, a serial killer or something." That's the end of that. You can see me on August 4th. That's Friday. At Art Seed Spokane, 1115 West 1st Avenue, Spokane, Washington, from 5 to 9. I'm going to be doing American Carnage. I'm going to be doing the Spokane story. I'm going to be doing all of it. It's going to be great. See you there. Thank you very much.